Hello, everyone. I am Dolly Tucker, the Chief Operating Officer at Autism Connect, and I welcome you all to the Autism Awareness Month, which is the April month. So, as we draw um, upon April, April brings in a lot of opportunities to delve deeper into the realms of understanding and acceptance. April isn't just a month on the calendar, it's Autism Awareness Month, a time when we come together as a global community to advocate for inclusivity and support for individuals on the autism spectrum. So today we welcome to the Motivational Monday, the day when we drive and draw inspiration from the remarkable journeys of parents within the autism community. So today we are honored to have a devoted parent who is an author as well. And the name of the parent and the author is Mr. Deboshish Paul. He will be sharing his profound insights and knowledge on what parents must do, which is a thing that every parent should know. And it's something really basic, but it is so important for every parent to understand what they should do. Debushish Paul is an author and a dad. He has written a book named, very carefully listen to the name of the book. It's called I Have Autism and I Like to Play Bad Tennis. It's such an interesting book. Everybody must read it. According to Mr. Debushish Paul, parents need to have lots of patience, understanding, love, courage, and hope. He believes parents can learn a lot from other parents. This month, for World Autism Awareness Month, we are so glad to have Mr. Paul as the first speaker of this month's program. He's here to help and share his knowledge on what parents should do as they raise a child with autism. So we are so glad to have you, sir. And one small introduction that I will be giving about Autism Connect. So, Autism Connect is an association of parents and professionals, and we are formed to disseminate scientifically validated information about therapies and treatments for autism. And we have built this platform to bridge this gap between parents and professionals. So, we bring them together on this unique platform so that they can share their experiences, expertise, and much beyond. So here we are celebrating Autism Month with Mr. Debashish Paul. Over to you, sir. Thank you so much for being with us on board.
Thank you for having me. I'll just share my screen. I have a short PPT for the key points that I would like to talk about.
Sure.
My screen is visible. Good evening, everyone here. I want to first, compliment on the theme of 2024 Autism Month of Awareness, which is colors. It has great significance, actually. To me, it means the variety, the shades that exists in nature is what is represented in colors. And similarly, neurodiversity is very much part of human life, and that is very well connoted by the expression of colors. And this is the other representation of Autism Awareness, World Autism Awareness Day 2024, which is the 2nd of April, and the month is called the Autism Awareness Month globally. My theme that I wish to talk about is open up to autism the new way. Now, you might wonder what is then the new way. So far, we did not have the kind of access to information, expertise, knowledge sharing, community building, and the parents were really ill-equipped with information uh, and knowledge to develop strategies to raise their child and guide him to achieve his full potential. But now the new way, which is thanks to the internet boom, the sharing of information, and the rise of expertise and research in this area, the parents are really, benefiting from the access to information and guidance. But then there is one other thing about the new way. Traditionally, the medical model, so to say, about disability was what is missing, what the child does not have, or the deficit. The emphasis was on the deficit, not so much on his ability or potential strengths, but more on his what he's unable to do or incapable of doing, and therefore terms like disability, sometimes even the word disease was used, dysfunctional, not normal, etc., were used. And the point was in the medical model is that you have to fix the child or to fix the individual to be able to function effectively. Now that has changed thanks to the advocacy around this social model, which means that we have to change the environment and the physical setup where the individual child is, and then tailor it to be able to uncover the strengths of the child and tailor it to the potential talent of the child. So that was the big shift, in the way we conceptualize autism or autism spectrum disorder. So the new terminology that we now use in this new way is neurodiversity. Now that opens up a very different way of looking at the issue. And it opens up also lots of new way, inventive ways of helping the child or the adult. How does that happen? Because neurodiversity stems from the belief that diversity, like colors, which is the theme of 2024, is an overarching, is under the overarching neurotypical world, there is diversity. Now, when we say somebody is on the ASD, somebody is on the autism spectrum, what we are saying is that he is neurodivergent within the big umbrella of neurotypical. So there is that whole belief that there is no discrimination when we really want to help the person develop along through the childhood as well as in adulthood. So there is that whole thing of discrimination, which is actually the principal barrier to the growth and development of the child. Though that perspective has now changed, and we are, parents will benefit from also embracing that attitude, that perspective. Because unless the parents and the immediate family and the educators and therapists embrace this, completely, we will really not be able to give the child the full, pathway for realizing his or her potential. So that's why neurodivergence, that notion changes the way we look at the issue and allows for a lot of accommodation of the difficulties of the child or the adult, and it pushes us to invent and think of new ways and not get strapped with the conventional methods of whether it is teaching, whether it is social skill development or language skill development or innate vocational strengths that the child may have, or the child's imagination, or any of these latent talents that the child may have. So it really is very positive and really is enabling when we talk about autism. And the other thing, yes, it is inclusive and it is non-judgmental language. It pushes you to use inclusive and non-judgmental language, which is so important. Words are important, and that's what is under emphasized here. How you begin to think, especially for somebody who is not aware of the subject, the first interface is with the words for description of the condition or how you should see that condition. So the words are important, and that's why this emphasis that it cannot. So when you say neurodiversity, you say neurodivergent. When you say inclusion, it pushes you to get into a non-judgmental language and non-judgmental way of describing behavior or issues. Essentially what I'm saying is there is a big new mindset that we're talking about, and a new mindset can only bring new kinds of results which we were not seeing earlier. We were trapped by old conventions and terminology and therefore discrimination. And in fact, it is, in certain societal traditions, it is also considered unlucky, inauspicious of to have a child with autism. So those shackles we have to break away from, and this kind of the new conceptual way of looking at the condition allows it and pushes you to accept it and contribute much more to the child's development. So the mindset change has to begin first with the parents. What does this mindset change, mean for the life of a parent? One is you have to recalibrate your own life. When you have the diagnosis, or you recognize that the child has challenges and is on the spectrum, you need to re-examine your own life. And I would say you have to disrupt yourself. You cannot think the old conventional ways of racing to achieve your personal goals, your family's goals, your material goals, your career goals, your academic goals. You have to revisit all of that. You have to recalibrate. It cannot be the same. The reason it cannot be the same is because you will have to make the child center of the way you think, the way you conduct yourself, the way you plan for life, the way you will decide where to stay, which area to stay in. All of those decisions become, hinges on benefiting the child. So that child centricity pushes you to recalibrate your life goals. Without that, it is going to be very difficult for you to, because you'll keep tripping, unless you know, internalize that recalibration. So that is the first thing I would say to parents and the immediate family, to recalibrate your goals and expectations from life. The second thing that I advocate is everyday courage. Now, everyday courage is not the big ticket courage. It is not that thing which is going to get applauded, because that's what the media has conditioned us to think, that courage means to win a medal. Courage means to, you know, uh, be victorious in a big victory, which people will celebrate and applaud you and give you a medal. No, that's not the kind of courage we are talking about here. And it's not just one brave act, one big brave act in a big stage. No, it's about every day. Every day you have to have the courage. And it's that quiet voice that says, we will try again. Because as you raise an autistic child or a neurodivergent child, you will face numerous challenges every day in terms of teaching, behavior change, behavior management, overload, sensory overload. All of those challenges will be there, and you will obviously try to do your best, but you should not lose heart. You should, if something doesn't work, no problem, I'll try tomorrow again with some new technique, with some new input, and that's how you have to shape your mind. So we need everyday courage in parents to benefit the child. I've spoken about these two things. And the point about everyday courage is that significant things in life are not standalone events. It is the sum of all moments when you strive to do things 1% better, little better, And that's what that aggregate effect of these marginal gains is really what's going to shape. It's not going to be one miracle suddenly happens and a big change will happen. It won't happen. It'll have to be every day, you have to be at it slowly, steadily. You will see progress, you will see great results, but you will have to be at it. And don't expect, large things, large results immediately. And that's what another thing which we get so conditioned to, we have to see visible outcomes, we have to see large outcomes, and then we get very disappointed and disheartened. So we should avoid, you have to retrain your mind on this uh, dimension of everyday courage. Everyday courage also means that you don't have the option of burning out. You know, a lot of people use this as an excuse. I'm getting too stressed. But we agree there is stress, and there is going to be pressure. There is going to be frustration. There will be disappointments. But you have to find your own strategy to cope. Because burnout is not an option for parents. So everyday courage also means that you'll have to find your own rhythm. You'll have to give time to yourself so that you can keep going courageously. A new mindset, like I said, will fetch new results. You will definitely, with this new mindset that I've spoken about so far, you will be able to bring visible results, a new kind of results, which you would not have got with the old way of thinking or your old attitudes. And you have to get out of those binds. You will have to give all your energy, your positivity, making the child, focusing on the child's strengths, building them, accommodating his needs, and so on and so forth. We all know as parents what how complicated sensory processing for the ASD person is. There is, and as you all know, all the five senses. You might, I mean, of course, when we talk about of one person with autism, there is, we all know this, there is a huge range. And, if you've met, as they say, if you met one autistic person, you've met only one autistic person, because there is so many differences that sort of manifest. However, the core principles we need to identify and then develop our strategy based on those. And then, of course, modify as per the child, individual needs and of the individual situation in the family. So we have to tailor it to those. But the broad point is that sensory processing is the first and foremost, difficulty that our children face. And we have to recognize it, and you have to be sensitive to which is that part, which is that dimension, which is that sense, which is experiencing overload or a underload, which in other words is hyper or hypo. So we have to develop that, because you must have seen, I mean, a lot of children, love to chew things, they like to chew anything thick or semi-solid, like the wallet or the corner of a cushion, or even shoes or socks. So that's happening because there is a sensorial need. There is a need for self stimulation, for fulfilling a hypo condition of of feeling, of taste, of touch. So that's how it manifests. So we have to be first and foremost conscious of the whole thing about sensory processing, and develop strategies to address that, and not get impatient, not get frustrated, not compare with other children. None of that. These are usual things that we see. For example, here there is a sensory overload of sound. We may not feel it. If the air conditioning is on in the room and there is that constant drone, the child is affected. He cannot focus on anything. So this is the usual picture that you'll see with lots of children. They like to block the sound levels which is around them, which we are not sensitive to. We don't understand that, but we have to pick up the signals. or splashing with, or playing or splashing with what splashing water is again, a sensorial need that happens. Okay, it could be the sound, it could be the visual enthrallment that the child is getting by splashing water. So it is not bad. Why are you being mischievous and you begin to reprimand the child? That will not fetch you any results. You'll have to see. You have to first of all be patient and make that allowance, and then figure out a strategy by which you can fulfill that. For example, you allow him a certain time, and then you say, okay, now we have done with this, rather than trying to punish him or pull him up or pulling him up. And then again, seeking attention of the child, especially in a learning situation or a play situation. Now this would happen. You'll have to be patient and allow him or her to have that bit of space to be suddenly lost in his own world. You will have to indulge in that. You cannot expect, and I have seen this very often, that the across the table teaching in early years in special schools, teachers get very impatient. There you have to then develop a strategy by which you have to get the child's attention back without, you know, uh, with a very calm and a soft, affectionate, gentle tone, rather than pulling up the child. And then the best way, I'll just tell you how one of the principles that you can use for all of these conditions. What is that? The core concept of that, which can be practiced. I'll just talk to you about that. This is again another usual picture that we see, where the child is very upset with his immediate surrounding, and we are not able to understand why he is upset. Why is there so much anxiety in him, right? Or an obsession with watching videos on mobile, and because of the visual enthrallment, or there is an auditory experience that he's craving for. We are all familiar with the five senses. So now what is not often talked about is the three other lesser known talked about senses, which is the vestibular, proprioception, interoception. Now imagine somebody who has difficulty in experiencing you know this problem about feeling hungry but unable to communicate or signal. So let me begin with the third one, which is interoception, the sense of what's going on inside the body, whether it is hunger, thirst, or the urge to go to the toilet. They may not be able to sense it. Forget about communicating. Only when you sense it, then you can communicate. But here there is no sensation happening. So these are things that will become all right with sensory integration therapies. But at the start, you will experience this kind of situation, uh, and you will have to again have a cool head, think through the thing, get proper, therapeutic, proper inputs from therapists, and then shape your strategy. Proprioception is, when you are unable to figure, I mean, it alters your sense of balance. For example, if you're traveling in a moving vehicle, you know, we naturally take to that motion, but they may not be able to take to that motion because the sense of balance is disturbed and they feel very frightened uh, in that experience. So vestibular, proprioception, these are other, nervous system issues that the child may show. All of us are familiar with what is STEM. Now, STEM is the manifestation of what we just talked about. And very often, um, the hand flapping or clapping loudly, those are called STEM behaviors. And you will have to, find ways of accepting, allowing that to happen, yet, have give him ways that he can cope better. Okay, and it is possible to do that. And if because when the STEM behavior happens, then the learning becomes slower. ability to take in inputs is slower, ability to focus, concentrate is difficult. So these are, in some, the characteristics of ASD for which we have to have a strategy in place. Parents have to have a strategy in place to be able to help the child. I will not go into detail on this. If you have any questions, we'll take the questions on this aspect. Coming to what I would urge parents to reflect on and actually practice, if they think it works for them, is our 7 sparks, which I call them the 7 sparks. First is, there is no one formula or no one therapy that will help you in shaping the child or to be able to maximize his potential. It will always be various things. However, there is a lot of resources on the net. Many therapies are talked about and marketed, but you please don't get confused. And it can get very distracting, and you're not sure whether you're doing the right thing. So that is very common. So try things, just see what works for your child and what works for you also. You know, how much of it can you practice on a daily basis? So I think there is a lot of objectivity required in accepting these different therapies which are out there. And in any case, you cannot stick with any one thing. You will have to have a mix of things happening. So you will have to apply your mind on that. You have to talk to other parents who have practiced it or have adopted it. So it has to be, there is work to be done here. Okay. And don't expect this one formula which will work for the child. It will never happen. The other thing which I advocate very strongly is, when we think of therapies and formulas, there are certain, standard practices. But what about sports? What about art? What about music? How we should integrate those unconventional forms of, because those are seen as, creative, or sports is seen as a physical, um, activity. But actually, a lot of social learning, numerical learning, all kinds of, functional academic learning can happen through music, through art and sports. So for me, those are actually going to be far more impactful rather than typical classroom setting or teacher student setting situations, because there is the child will respond so much better to those things in a very, very natural way. And you can think of developing language skills while you are, playing, say, badminton, or when you're playing football with the child or with other children in the field. So there is lots that can be done using these 3 avenues. There could be others, but I have seen these 3 work exceedingly well when integrated with your teaching strategy. Make structure your anchor. We talked about all the sensorially, overload issues, hyposensorial issues. All of that you need to think of a structure. You will be able to bring down the STEM issues considerably, and the child will be able to, and you can productively use the time for learning activities. Structure means very simple things. For example, you sequence it visually. Of course, that is well widely known. Visually, you sequence things, use flashcards for any activity, very clearly say when does it start, when does it finish. Those are, very widely known and practiced. To the next level of structure is that when, you give her time, okay, we will do this thing for the next 10 minutes. After that, we'll get back to doing our work. So now those things which seems very, superficial in our everyday life, but actually allows the ASD mind to process, to self-regulate, emotionally regulate himself or herself much better. You have to find, structure. You have to use it as your anchor for all kinds of teachings, issues, uh, things to improve in the behavioral side of the child. Structure is the core, and I talk about that in my book. And I would recommend that you read this book. I have autism and I like to play bad tennis, because I explain this notion with numerous examples of how you can bring structure into the everyday learning of the child. Patience, needless to say, it has to become 1,000 times more than before you experience ASD. And when you get into the ASD plane, then you have to actually become 1,000 times more patient. One example of a structure, you can say, is providing choice to the child. Okay, would you like to do this, or this? Every time you create a situation of choice, it pushes him to think, and also makes him feel comfortable that you're not shoving down something, you know. So you allow him to think and choose. You will get much better conformity than otherwise, you know. I often recommend that you ask the child, especially when the child is, overcome the initial learning stages, then you can say, and has language abilities or can follow visual cards in case of a non-speaking, child. You say, one, what is the reason that you would do this, or you like this, or you don't like this? Push the child to give you reasons, because giving reasons, numbering them, helps them communicate better, because they have a structure to communicate with. Okay. Performance pressure is a no-no. Never should you use any kind of communication or tonality, or a reward punishment system that pushes the child and makes him very anxious about what he's about to do. Yeah. I can't go too much into detail right now. Time is short. So the last point is, sorry, keep your eye firm on the big picture. What are the big results that you're getting? Don't get, disappointed or distracted by the immediate things. You have to pursue the strategy consistently. That's very important. Keep the child's, at the center of it. If he's going to benefit, and at the end of it, you might as well go through it, despite all the difficulties. The last 2 points are actually, don't we often forget about emotional development of the child. And in an ASD situation, we push it to the background. But emotional development is very important, because as the child grows, especially in his adolescence stage, there is going to be a lot of outbursts. There will be things he will not understand. He'll be very confused. So it will come out with aggressive behavior. So this whole emotional development or emotional regulation should start kind of early. And you give them, again, the options, of emotionally, being able to emotionally regulate himself or herself. Give him options. Okay, this is what you could do. Hold on, stay quiet, or have a glass of juice. Things you will have to give him action points to be able to manage his adverse uh, emotions. Last point is teamwork. Within the family, you'll have to function like a team, like a really well-oiled machine. I know it is, it's a easy thing to say, but very difficult to achieve. I know that, but everybody has to come onto the same page. So whether it's the father, mother, if the grandparents are there, then they should be, and the siblings, everybody should work as a team. Then the external team of therapists, job coaches, special educators, you have to operate in the collaborative spirit, and you will have to develop a sort of a team sense. There will be sharing of this, and you have to communicate with each other also. Don't keep it locked up in yourself. There is some things didn't work, you're disappointed, frustrated, angry, and you will You need to communicate with your team members. So my book will illustrates a lot of what I have said with real life experiences. So I would suggest to check it out. It's available on Amazon. So with those words, I would say thank you very much. If anybody has questions, feel free to ask me. So there is no questions.
So thank you so much, sir, for joining us. And it was a very insightful talk. And we thank all our audience as well who have been with us. And stay tuned for the entire month of Autism Connect, celebrating the Autism Awareness Month. So we will be having a lot of surprises. And yes, thank you so much, so much, so much, sir. We are truly honored to have you, and we will definitely be connecting for further collaborations as well. Anything that you would like to sum up?
No, thank you very much. And all my good wishes to the listeners, the parents, the siblings, uh, and our very own special children. And all the best for Autism Awareness Month. Let's all do our bit in expanding awareness, understanding, and empathy. Thank you.
Correct. Yes. So anybody, if y'all have any questions, y'all can put it in the comment box. We can share it with Mr. Paul, and he can answer it later as well.
I think
All right. Lovely. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Have a lovely day. Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.